Save Podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Alex.
And we're bringing back another round of Tony Hawktober.
Hawktober!
Yes, please. Today we're talking about Tony Hawk's Project 8. Yes, we played it on the PS3. It also came out on the 360. A couple other things. We'll talk about that later. But it is the 8th game in the franchise. Boom. Get it? Tony Hawk's Project 8. It's the 8th Tony Hawk game that's ever existed.
It's definitely a project.
Yeah, really. Let's talk about the gameplay here, all right? And we'll get this out of the way now. There's 3 versions of this game. On the PSP, PS2, and Xbox, Project 8 uses the American Wasteland engine, which is good. We like that engine.
We like that engine.
Seems fine, right? On the PS3 and the 360 version, they made a new engine, and there's even more gameplay elements to take advantage of that stronger hardware.
All right, so that's 2. What's the third, Josh?
Everybody's favorite way to play Tony Hawk back in like 2011 or whatever when this came out.
2007.
There you go. Not even close. 2007 when this came out. You can play it on your mobile phone. Probably your Nokia. That's probably what they're pushing for. There's a huge Nokia sponsorship in this game. Your phone is the Nokia phone in the game. So there's a mobile phone version that is essentially an entirely new game. It's like completely unrecognizable as a Tony Hawk game. We'll have to get that somehow one day. Get a phone with the Project 8 mobile game on it.
Search eBay scouring through the hours of the night.
But yeah, so you play as a stick figure going downhill, hitting the correct direction on your phone's D-pad like you were playing a DDR game. And yes, that's on your phone's D-pad back when it had the freaking, like the 4 arrows and the center button. So just the good old days of playing games on your mobile phone.
Yeah, the mobile game released 8 days before the first iPhone ever debuted.
Beautiful. And the PS2 and Xbox version, here's the difference there. They don't have an open world. So that's kind of the big thing with this one. The PS3 and Xbox 360 versions, they boast an open world. Well, what's so new about that? American Wasteland had an open world, you say. Yeah, American Wasteland also had hallways that you had to skate down where the game was clearly unloading one level and loading in the next. That was a big thing for American Wasteland. They're like, look, it's a big connected open world and there's no loading screens. And then they'd hide the loading screens behind like a long hallway you would skate down that would buffer loading everything in as you like rode down it. But this, if you're playing the PS3 or 360 version, legitimately is just a connected big open world. You have to kind of play stuff and beat and unlock sections of the map, but you straight up can just go from the suburbs to the town, to the school, to the city hall, right? It's all right there. So they are all connected, which is nice. One of the new added features is the Nail the Trick mode, where when you go off a specifically marked ramp, there'll be like these blue ramps that say Nail the Trick on them. Or if you click in the L3 and R3 button on the sticks, click those in, you'll go into this like slow-mo, zoomed in on the board kind of part of the game. So the whole thing, you go into like bullet time, slows down, zooms in on your feet, and it gets a little complicated.
It looks confusing.
It looks bad. The whole game just kind of looks bad though, so... You use the left stick to control your front foot, and you use the right stick to control your back foot, and you can flip the board in any way you want, except it has to be while it is face up or face down. So either if the board's facing up, you can move one of your feet in a direction, and it'll flip the board around. Then if the trucks are facing up or the grip tape's facing up, you can keep kind of messing around with it. But eventually, you're either going to come crash. There's a couple different options here. The trick either ends when you let go of the sticks. So if you just let go and the board is face up, boom, you'll land it. If you let go and the board's like trucks up or on the side or in a stupid, weird direction, your man will come crashing down to the ground and break all his bones and die. And the final option is just like holding on to the trick, because you'll jump off a ramp. It slows down time, but it doesn't like pause it. So I mean, eventually you'll hit the ground. So you can just like go into slow motion for like 2 minutes until your man hit the ground. Yeah.
2 minutes later. Whoa.
Yep. But yeah, the main crux of the game, the main gameplay loop here is there's a leaderboard that you are trying to climb. You want to become one of the top 8 skaters.
Get it? Project 8.
That's the Project 8.
Trying to be in the top 8.
That's the Project 8. Yep. You climb spots by doing missions as well as landing gaps and finding hidden skate spots. It's kind of, I've seen people compare this to 4, because it's kind of like big open world / big open levels, and you kind of are just completing goals. And there's not like, there's a story, sure. It's like, yeah, get on the top 8.
I guess I can see the comparison.
Yeah.
I feel like you're stretching a bit, but like,
I've just
not like you personally, but like,
yeah,
you know, the people out there. It's kind of a stretch,
This is not exactly like 4, but just in the way that the people are kind of strewn all over the level and you have to go talk to them, right? So instead of like 3 where it's like, here's 2 minutes, go, it is more along the lines of like, there are people you need to talk to and they'll give you missions to do.
So in Project 8, Tony Hawk has started a competition to put together a team of only the most elite skaters in your created skaters town. You begin the game ranked 200th, the lowest rank, and you must work your way up the rankings to be in the top 8. There's obviously less plot in this one, but the game still tries to ground itself more in the real world, having more realistic graphics and tweaking the gravity. By tweaking, they mean like just full on, just like...
They cranked it up high.
Let's crank.
They're like, realism means more gravity, right? So it's like not fun to play anymore.
But let's talk about some price on the different variants of this game.
Please.
So let's talk about the PSP first. Loose, you're looking at $650. Complete, $1061.
It's fine. I bet this probably also doesn't play well on the PSP.
The PSP uses the Thaw engine, which is American Wasteland's engine.
It's maybe better. We didn't play, for reference, we didn't play any of the, because they call it, I think it's I'd have to remember, but I think it's called like Gen 6 and Gen 7. So it's like the Gen 6 engine uses the Thaw one, the Gen 7 engine has the new engine. We only played the Gen 7 360 PS3 version. And even though we played on PS3, which we hear is very framey and not good, this was mainly developed on like a 360 dev kit.
Yeah, it crashed on us during
it did I forgot about that. It did straight up crash while we were playing it. So we only played the new engine version, which we both agree was not very good. Maybe the PS2...
Maybe not having like this big, huge continuous thing might actually work well for it and being on a different engine.
Yeah, maybe being on the Thaw engine works better for it, in its favor.
Going into PS2 now, loose 472, complete 643.
No high scores.
No high scores. Definitely on the lower end of PS2 games. Here's the fun one, though. Red Label, which is the greatest hits version, loose, $1.02.
Great.
They're practically giving it away. If you want to complete, $8.30. So literally the box and manual is worth more than the game. Then finally, on the 7th gen side, PS3. Loose, $9.35. Complete, $11.90. The highest we've seen so far.
I paid like $12, I think, for mine, so that makes sense.
And then Xbox. OG Xbox. Loose, $5.30. Complete, $6.24. Barely a difference. It's kind of been like the common theme here so far is that like that $6 to $10 range is what we normally will see. Platinum though, we get a little bump. Loose, $8.15, and then just out of nowhere, complete $21.61.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they just didn't print a ton of the platinum.
That's kind of my guess.
I mean, it's just so weird, right?
I doubt they fixed a billion bugs on the old version of the game, right? It couldn't be that.
Then again, it was built on a Xbox dev kit, so maybe it was easier to relay that to the older generation.
Maybe.
360, Xbox 360, loose, $6.39, back to that nice, 6 to 10 range it looks like, and complete $8.50. Platinum on the 360, loose $9.60, and complete $9.66, so basically the same price. It's kind of hard to, have like excitement for these prices when the game just kind of beat the crap out of us to begin with.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I'll be honest. I remember so little about this. You were like, we're going to record this today. I forgot I wrote most of this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, is it written? You're like, yeah, it's pretty much written and good to go. I was like, reading these paragraphs back. I'm like, I completely forgot that I had like written this. I was like chilling on the sidewalk waiting for a ride or something. I was just like chilling outside writing a bunch of this. I barely remember any of Project 8.
And then last but not least in our pricing guide, mobile. The mobile version.
How much for the mobile version?
It's priceless, man.
Yeah.
It's just priceless.
Can't put a price on fun, huh? How much do you think it was? Probably like $4 or something back then.
I mean, well, we're talking about like...
They'd have to... This back in the days, they'd charge your phone plan or something like that.
Maybe, like, I barely remember for mobile games that far back. Because, we're talking like Razor phones,
LG chocolate, yeah.
LG chocolates. The
Sidekick.
The Sidekick, that's what it was. The Sidekick. You're thinking of that, right? Nokia was still making phones that people were somehow buying, which was crazy. And I think a game back then was had to be somewhere between $5 to $10.
Yeah, I think $5 sounds kind of the average for me.
Yeah, because I kind of remember seeing like, this was also the time that you could buy ringtones. You would call up a place.
Jealous. Yeah, I'd see all the ads for like the Crazy Frog ringtone
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I
You would
miss
call
that
or
era.
text this number.
I miss that era of television so badly. I just have such nostalgia for those stupid ads.
And like you would say like, hey, I want ringtone number 3, and they would charge your phone like I think by minutes.
Yeah.
They would charge minutes to your phone, which man, that takes us back. And then they would send you a link essentially, or like a download file that you could download and then get it on your phone.
Yeah. Kind of the dream.
It just shows you like how far back this is for Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
And like we're sitting in this like realm where flip phones were still like the big thing yet.
Oh yeah. Everybody's sitting around there like, dude, listen to this. I got the Gummy Bear song, ringtone, let's go. And they're all like, text 9855 to get your Gummy Bear ringtones.
Oh my god.
Additional cost may apply.
You say that and like no kidding, like those horrible ads.
Takes you back, right?
Man, I kind of wish I could rewatch some of
This
them.
frog's crazy, and you can have his ringtone on your phone for only $5. Text 9743 and text Crazy Frog 1 to get Crazy Frog ringtones.
People are gonna go look now and like, man, what are they talking about? Gonna see these cringy.
What the hell is he talking about? Ringtones? You buy the ringtones?
There's some dude being like, what the hell does this have to do with Tony Hawk? Well, let me tell you what it has to do with Tony Hawk.
It's the culture of the time, man.
Culture of the time.
We all had phone charms on our LG chocolates and sidekicks,
God, phone
man.
We were texting with T9 texting.
Absolutely, I remember T9. Yeah, and it's like you're like, that's not part of the game. It legitimately is the Nokia phone. Literally, when they play a cutscene, the phone opens every time. They literally show the Nokia phone every time a cutscene plays, and you like pretty much can't skip them. Let's talk about what we thought about this game. Unfortunately,
I mean, what did we play? What did we play, Josh?
It feels like playing Project 8 feels like you were put on this earth just to suffer.
There's no way that was a Tony Hawk game. I'm sorry. I just refuse to accept that was a main series game. Like, it was just so boring. Like, my God. The challenges were bland. The character mocaps were frightening.
Yeah, it's scary.
And like the feel of the game just felt like heavy. Like they just decided that, hey, regular gravity? Nah, let's sun gravity this. It just felt like you were fighting to skate in a game where the whole point of it is to skate.
And the attempts at comedy really are not great either. You have this dad who's like, hey there, champ. You mind grabbing my balls? And you're like, oh, wow, this 5-year-olds write this game?
Ball humor, yeah.
Exactly. You have these characters who are like caricatures in like a really kind of like not good way. It's like, here's this lady, she's a realtor and she's kind of ugly. Isn't that funny? And like, kind of not really, man. Like, I don't know. It's not.
And then they do some stuff that like I pointed out something and going like, oh, they're inclusive, and it's like, oh no, they're making fun of that.
Yeah. Oh, she had like a pride pin.
Yeah.
On her, so she had a pride pin on. But like that's part of the joke. Yeah, it was like that was part of the
legitimately,
joke.
I was at first, I'm like, oh wow, head of their time. Congrats.
Incorrect.
And it's like, no.
Incorrect. Yeah, they're poking fun here. Yeah. Yeah, it's the first thing anybody with eyes would notice, really, is the bloom. Seriously, we turned it on, and it was like, I'm blinded. My eyes, I can't see any longer.
It's just a consistent flashbang.
It's like they attempted to hide the bad PS3 graphics behind, like, a blinding amount of bloom. So if you know what bloom is where they essentially crank the reflection of light off of surfaces super high. So it's like, I'm a dude standing here, but when you walk up to me, the screen gets really bright because the light's reflecting off the thing. So the bloom is like how far the light reflects. So it makes everything look super bright and washed out and like almost like fuzzy and hard to see because it's so bright.
Yeah, like I would say the beginning level wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like pretty like okay as far as lighting. And then you get to like the city.
Yep.
And it's just like the searing... It's the sun from Mario that's just chasing you, essentially.
Yeah, it's raining down the beams, man. Yeah, so it's so bright, it kind of gives the game like a sense of lifelessness. Everything feels like sterile. And it was washed by the sun, cleaned by the sun, so it's all this like bright, kind of like faded colors you can't see very clearly. And nothing, you and I agree on this, nothing about skating should be so clean or like robotic. The world does not feel lived in at all. It's like... Here is
Skating-
this perfect world that you can skate around in.
Skating is a incredibly organic thing. It's very much about like the physics of the world, and
It's
it's
a sport, man.
Yeah, it's a sport.
You're gonna
Things
sweaty,
get dirty.
sweaty,
there's blood.
dirty, greasy, grimy. Yeah, you break something. It's not this like, well, Gerald and I were thinking of going skateboarding at the local park late. It's like, it's just the average dudes out there skating around, man.
When skating first started becoming popular, it was described as an extreme sport for good reason.
The last game, this is what bothers me, right? The last game, American Wasteland, before this, like chronologically in the series, American Wasteland is about stealing items from locations to put them in your skate park.
Which is amazing.
In the games, you're like grinding on a ledge until the ledge falls off, and then a truck comes to pick up the ledge and put it in your skate park. That rules. The ending mission of that game, you break into a casino to steal money in a heist. This game is like, I don't know, try and be a really good skateboarder, right? It's just, the last game was so, you're in the thick of it, right? Just, you're like doing crimes and you're hanging out with your delinquent pals and whatever, right? And this game's like, you're a kid from the suburbs. Try to be the best skater you can. And it just makes me want to say this. I want to look at Tony and say, where'd the soul go, Tony? Where'd the soul skating go? You're selling out like Eric Sparrow. Speaking of which, he's in the game, kind of. You're selling out like Eric Sparrow, man. Where's the soul skating? Where'd the soul skating go, Tony? Bring it back.
Yeah, it's something else. I mean, like, I was really looking forward to playing another Tony Hawk game I've never played before. I wanted this to be so good that when it ended up just being bad, it was just a huge, huge disappointment. The more we played, the more I just couldn't get past all of the badness that it was. The bloom, the high gravity. It felt like to do the simplest tasks, you just had to be a pro at the game. Like, hands down.
Yeah, it takes getting used to. A lot of getting used to. But here's the issue with getting used to it. That means you have to play the game for a long time. We don't want to do that for this. It's not fun to play. But let's talk about Nail the Trick, please. I thought it was a very cute feature that can build some massive points. But I have one main issue with this feature. It slows the game. He literally goes into slow-mo to do it. The Tony Hawk games have always been about...
fast and dirty, man.
Yeah, and like precision and grinding and jumping and making the jumps and landing it just the right way.
Jumping off of dumpsters, doing some, McTwist.
The thing is, like, the past games always felt fast and precise. There was a level of precision to what you were doing. And Nail the Trick is tough because it slows the whole game way down. Like, you get massive points from doing it. It slows the whole thing down so much. And then it has this level of precision to it that's, like, not good. Because you can't, there's no, like, if I go into the air and hit left and square, right? Okay, I'm going to do a kick flip. If I hit right and square, I'm going to do a heel flip, right? That happens in Tony Hawk. Nail the Trick, if you hit left, well, if the board wasn't exactly in the right spot, actually you bailed the trick and have to start it over. You have to, like, rotate the board in 3D space, but the camera's in a fixed spot, so it's impossible. If it was, like, top-down, and you were looking at the feet from a top-down, you were looking at the board from a top-down, I think it'd be way easier to control. But it's, like, coming at it from, like, a side angle. So you really just don't have this precise view. So it slows everything down, and it's hard to do perfectly. It's a bad feature. If there were challenges where it was, like, just do Nail the Trick, you're good. There are some of the, like, to do some of the sick challenges, you literally have to start the combo with a Nail the Trick to get enough points to, like, get the sick score.
It feels like they wanted the player to be able to feel what, like, an actual skater does when they perform tricks, because it's not left and square in real life. It's,
right.
My right foot's on the ledge and this is saying on the tail of the board.
Jump and kick and land, right? Absolutely.
Yep. And I feel like that's probably what they were trying to get to.
Emulate what being a real skateboarder is like. Well, I've got great news. You've taken the speed. Imagine if they made Burnout, and then they were like, okay, there's a mode in Burnout where actually it slows the entire game down for minutes at a time. You'd be like, why would I want that? The game's about going fast. Why would I want to be slow? And that's what this feels like. The whole Tony Hawk formula has been literally the first 3 games are like, you have 2 minutes to beat a level. Go fast. And now the 8th game is like, actually, what if you went slow? Bad idea. Bad idea.
I mean, the levels looked awesome. I will say that. I mean, the bloom was rough, but I mean, the levels overall look good. And there, I said it. I said one good thing about it so far. The levels look good.
I like that. See, here's the thing. I don't even agree with that. I think the level concepts are cool. I don't even think they're executed that well.
I mean, that's the thing. The other thing is, like, to be honest, I don't think I could come up with another really, like, great thing about it. I sat down when we were writing through all this. I sat down and I go, I have to say at least one good thing. I have to. It's a Tony Hawk game.
The soundtrack
Deserves
the
something
soundtrack's
nice.
okay.
Soundtrack is okay at best.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It's not. We're not winning any Grammys with it. But
it's not, a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Pro Skater 4, Thug 2.
Thaw.
I mean, like, when I think of those soundtrack lists, I think of, like, iconic songs one after another. Or, like, iconic to the Tony Hawk series. I mean, I literally said, while playing this game, if the PS2 version runs on American Wasteland's engine, and that engine was great, maybe it should have just stayed a PS2 game.
Yeah, and so we'll talk a little bit about that later. But the graphical upgrade that this game received, it really just feels like a step in the wrong direction. I talked about the kind of like clinicalness, the sterility of it all, the lifelessness that the characters have.
the frightening faces that they can make.
Yeah. Even the new Tony Hawk titles, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, which, I mean, now came out a long time ago, but Pro Skater 1 and 2, they both have this, like, cartoonishness about them. The characters look like, I would consider it like they look 90% real human, 10% clearly animated, kind of like a little cartoon.
You could put
right?
skeleton arms on your guy. That was the thing that they introduced. That's what I want in a Tony Hawk game.
Yep.
I want that silliness.
Yeah, you can play Jack Black's in the newest Tony Hawk. You can play as a skeleton and an alien in the new Tony Hawk. There's this level of silliness to it, right? Not that there isn't some level of silliness in this, but the whole thing just doesn't feel cartoony. They made it too realistic in a way that it's not fun. And here's the thing. It's like, oh, what? You don't want a realistic skate game? Realistic skate games can be fun. Look at Skate. Skate is a fun franchise, right? And they have that hyper-realistic, gives you the feeling of jumping and flicking the board with your foot by using the sticks to control it. Skate controls amazing, but it doesn't lose the speed at any point. The whole thing is still like jump, flip, you're done, you know? It's not like this intense slow down, oh, flip the board, don't mess it up. But yeah, I don't know. Clearly you could tell they were trying something new, trying to go for that realistic, lived-in world kind of feel, but it just did not pan out. It is
not even close.
It needs to have that level of silliness to it. The characters need to be kind of goofy and funny. I mean, like, look at PS1 Tony Hawk. You couldn't even tell that it's Tony Hawk. He's like a bunch of triangles, man.
You got like a flat face even.
Yeah, you show me a bunch of like blobs, and you're supposed to be like, yeah, that's Tony Hawk, man. And I'll be like, yeah, I guess, right? Let's get into some fun facts. There's not a lot. We'll start with this. So there's a gentleman goes by the name Andy THPS, kind of a prominent figure in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater community, just like a good Tony Hawk player. He was actually a dev on this game. I didn't know
Wow.
that. I didn't know he was a dev. I thought he was just like somebody who's really good at Tony Hawk. Well, it turns out he was really good at Tony Hawk because he was a dev for Neversoft. I know he designed the Slums level, potentially a couple others. I think maybe Theme Park.
It all comes full circle.
Exactly. And speaking of him, he was on a GDQ run. They just did this. This was like literally the other day. I was like, man, it sucks that we already recorded Project 8, so I can't talk about this. I asked you about it. I forgot everything. I didn't know we didn't do this yet.
That's just what this game does.
It's like I'm trying to actively forget it happened. But I was like, oh, I wanted to mention this thing. You're like, yeah, we haven't recorded it yet. You can still mention it. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're completely correct. But so GDQ did a run by the Packle. Packle is a big Tony Hawk runner in the community, and he did a rank 1 run. So that is obviously getting to rank 1 on the leaderboards out of 200. I think it was like 2.5 hours, maybe just over, like 240, something like that. But it was him and Andy and another person, some other folks. It was like 4 people total, including the host. But it was Packle and Andy. And Andy was giving like developer commentary in the game. And it's really interesting. I'll link that down below. But it was like he's just talking about like, oh yeah, this is how this level was built. He's like, do you notice in this level the rails like give you a boost? And they're like, yeah, I did notice that. He's like, yeah, the developer didn't know, like the designer for this level couldn't make the he couldn't make the like rails line up. So it's like if you were grinding on one rail and jumped to the next, you wouldn't land it. So he had to make his rails boost you a little bit. He's like, these rails give you a speed boost. And Andy was like, I don't care if they're boosted rails, that's fine. But there needs to be a wire or like an electricity box or like you need to like show that there's a reason they give you a boost, right? You can't just be like, this rail gives you a boost because I said it does. You need to show in world why it gives you a boost, right? And it's stuff like that where it's like, here's this oversight where it's like, we have this thing, there's no explanation for it. That's the perfect thing to add some cartoonish, like, here's a silly thing. But instead they favor for this, like, it feels like a sellout game. There's a Jeep factory.
It really does.
There's a Jeep factory. They're making Jeeps. You grind on Jeeps. There are missions about Jeeps. Your phone is a Nokia phone. The game it feels like a cash grab. It does not feel good. Let's talk about the soundtrack. We love doing
Let's
that.
talk about that soundtrack. There's 56 tracks. You know, I did a big little shtick on Thug about the 75 that it, you know, had just rolling through its playlist.
There's some big bands, right?
I mean, you know, we got the Ramones are back on here with I Wanna Live.
9 Inch Nails singing Getting Smaller. Primus sings American Life.
Bad Religion singing Social Suicide.
Slayer, Angel of Death. Gnarls Barkley, Gone Daddy Gone. And that was kind of the big track. I remember that was the big track. It was Gone Daddy Gone.
Gym Class Heroes, The Queen and I. And then, like, the weird part was that 6th gen has exclusive tracks. They have 4 exclusive tracks, being ESWS, Uncle Todd's Cabin, The Long Thaw playing Come Taste It, Stay Gold Pony Boy playing Communist Parties, a song by the Walkmen, which was Tenleytown, but it was mislabeled as This Job Is Killing Me, which is another song of theirs, but they just got mixed up.
I will say on the other track list, you do have the Walkman This Job Is Killing Me. So was that actually on the normal playlist? So like PS3 360 version had This Job Is Killing Me, and then the 6th gen version only had the Tenleytown instead?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So like it had a different Walkman song?
It's just like so weird. I don't understand why the prior generation got these other songs when the new generation didn't. There's more room on new generational discs.
Yeah, it's obviously very weird that is what happened. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody can accurately explain what happened with this game or the development behind it.
Let's talk about our favorites and least favorites. We're moving real fast, man. It's crazy. I mean, how do you talk about a game with passion and, you know, excitement and, you know, wanting to deep dive into these things when at the end of the day it's just kind of like, man, that blew.
I mean, neither of us wrote this, but honestly, probably both of our favorites was when we turned the game off and said, "Oh, thank goodness! Oh, thank goodness, we get to stop playing now."
My eyes, they get a break. You could have put shades on and still played the game like it was nothing. It's that bright. It's crazy. I honestly do not have a favorite thing about this game. I'm sorry, guys. It wasn't good. It just wasn't. The levels were well designed, but failed due to the awful controls and the gravity. The game had so much room to be amazing, but unfortunately it just missed the mark by 900 degrees. Completely. Thug and Thaw had such great game engines that once you take away that magical spark away from a Tony Hawk game, it just loses all meaning behind being a Tony Hawk game. This is 100% a hard Famitsu 12 out of 40 for me.
We're giving it hard Japanese 12 out of 40 today. Well, I'm going to talk about my favorite thing about this world, which is a concept. It's not even like a level or anything, a gameplay. My favorite thing about this game is the concept is the huge connected open world. American Wasteland, probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite Tony Hawk game. I always liked that it had that open world, and even if there's the stupid hallways that I'm gonna, jump off a ramp and do a kickflip or whatever and go down this little hallway, it feels connected. It feels like a real world. It's not just like load level. Removing the loading screens seems trivial, but it really did. It did that extra something for me, as a kid. It would be amazing if the modern Tony Hawks had this big connected world. It would be cool to go from warehouse to school 1 to... It would be amazing if we could connect all these places. I think that's such a novel concept. And there are games where I think that's the truth, and there are games where I think that's not the truth. Burnout Paradise, I hate that that's an open world game. I think Burnout works way better when it's like level based. I disagree with the Tony Hawks. I mean, like, the skate games are amazing. It's cool to go from one side of the map to the other and skate all these sweet spots along the way.
I think there's the ability, the potential to make a giant Tony Hawk game now, but they would have to use a very similar engine to Thug and Thaw.
Yep.
They would...
Which already exists. They did that with Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remakes, have that remastered PS2 engine.
And like you could kind of live the best of both worlds, right? Like in the fact that you could still have levels, but in each of the levels are these massive areas that combine a bunch of like the old skate parks, right? Like
yeah,
you could have school, mall, and airport be one level,
right,
where you can like move fluidly through the three.
Or it's just like just connect them in some way, right? So hangar starts with this big like drop into the hangar. Okay, well we just need kind of like a big open area where we can connect to say like hangar is next to airport. Okay, and airport is next. School 1 and school 2 are rival schools against each other, whatever. Like you could connect them in a bunch of silly whatever ways. You would just need these like connecting threads.
I mean these old levels are really small, and you could take the concept of what Project 8 was supposed to be and just do it right. It like I get it. Making a game is not easy, but if you're already making games that are going to be similar to this, already,
the framework's already there.
Like it's not that hard at that point.
Yep.
You as developers, in my opinion, should be able to kind of throw that concept together.
It's okay. This message you're sending out to all Tony Hawk developers, nobody's hearing that because there will never be another Tony Hawk game, at least probably not for a long time. Yeah, and then bringing it back to the levels there. In this game, even the big levels don't feel interesting at all. Like the theme park feels like this. Like each level feels like they're pieces.
It feels really compact.
That's not my issue. My issue is like every piece feels like it's disconnected from the next piece. So here's a half pipe. Okay, skate the half pipe. Okay, now there's a big rail pool you can grind. This guy's backyard has a big pool. Go grind the big pool. Okay, well the next backyard has like a ramp you can jump off, right? Each piece of the level feels unconnected from the rest of it. Like you play like the old Tony Hawk levels, each level feels like one fluid level design, clearly made thing. Each level in this feels like they took like 5 skate pieces, put them all in one level, and was like, yeah, I think that's good enough. And again, that goes just to, like I said, about the lifelessness of this game. It feels like it was not developed with a clear intent. Levels do not have a clear pathway through them. They're all so muddled and mixed up.
I think what makes a good Tony Hawk level is when you do have like when they were making the levels in like Thug, you can like see the path that you can take.
You can do a combo from one side of the level to the next. That's been there, since like all the PS2 ones, even before that, right? Like you knew.
Pro Skater 2, same thing. You saw the path that they were trying to like show you.
You can drop into the level. You can go into the half pipe, do stuff on the half pipe from there. It just makes sense. These levels, they don't have that. You look at stuff and everything serves a purpose. This goal is going to be use the half pipe. This goal is going to be grind the rail. That's they just feel like means to an end. They don't feel like one big level. And then my least favorite, obviously I'm going to agree with you, gravity sucks in this game. They cranked it up way high. Jumping, doing tricks, doing things quick and easy does not exist in this game. You have to get used to it, and it is not quick. If you've played a Tony Hawk game, this does not feel like a Tony Hawk game. This feels completely alien. It is a struggle to get off the ground, and I understand skateboarding is by no means easy in real life, but if I wanted realism, I would go outside and actually skateboard. I would not play a Tony Hawk game to get a realistic depiction of what skateboarding is.
My other big gripe that I forgot to mention is the fact that in this game about skateboarding, your player does not skate without your help.
He doesn't move, right? Yeah. That was the issue.
That was my biggest issue. It just felt so foreign. So in the old games, if you just like pushed forward on your board, your character would just automatically start pushing for you. You just skate. And if you want to go faster, then you would, interact with the character and then you go a bit faster. But in this game, and if you want to move, hold X. Or in, Xbox speak, it's A, but...
On your Nokia mobile phone, it'd be D-pad.
Yeah, D-pad. But, it's just, it just doesn't feel like Tony Hawk anymore.
There's this lifelessness to it that I keep mentioning. We'll get to eventually, not this year, but eventually we'll talk about Proving Ground, which is a game that came after this. And I know I haven't played that since I was a kid, but there was something about Proving Ground that brought the series back for me. So Proving Ground is the next one in line after Project 8, and that... Something about that I will say, that legitimately does just give me Tony Hawk 4 vibes. Proving Ground. I like Proving Ground, and I know a lot of people will say that is a bold opinion, but I think if you compare Project 8 and Proving Ground together, I mean, it's literally night and day. Proving Ground is like a playable video game, and Project 8 isn't. And Proving Ground kind of brings back some fun to the series where it's like you're in the tri-state area, so it's like Washington, D.C., and there's kind of like this, it's like Pittsburgh, and it's kind of this like metro area. It's realistic, not super realistic, still fun. You can like skate in like the National Aerospace Museum, stuff like that. It makes it more kind of goofy and lighthearted in a fun way. But yeah, eventually we'll compare them and see how Proving Ground holds up. Because like I said, I haven't played that since I was a kid. But let's talk about why it deserves on the backlog. I think this is going to be the first one where we agree. It doesn't deserve to be on the backlog. It does not. While honestly just more of an interesting oddity for the series than a good game, Project 8 reaches for the stars but falls short, instead landing in the dumpster. Out of the Tony Hawk games, we would recommend you play this last and only for 15 minutes at a time to avoid giving yourself a sunburn from all the bloom and overexposure this game's offering. Pick this game up only to point and laugh at it while marveling at the creative ideas the team attempted to pull off. I think we can easily rank this as the worst Tony Hawk game we played so far.
So far, yeah.
So that would put our rankings right now. You remember what we put first?
Yep, Thug.
Thug first, then Pro Skater 3, then Project 8. We should write this down somewhere. We're never going to remember what our list was. Not to say that this is the worst Tony Hawk game. There's, I'm sure, a bunch of silly, ridiculous ones that we've yet to play that are probably also going to be not good in their own right, but giving us a run for its money, huh? It's not trying to be good.
So much of that.
I will say some good features of this game. Nigel Houston's in this game, who's a young skater at the time. His model, he looks like a 5-year-old. And he was like young. Obviously, he was a young skater for sure at the time. But like he's like in this game, his model, he's like 5. This baby is skating around, and he's like, do a cool trick.
You're like, okay, here's a manual.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Let's talk about those missions where you have to follow the camera guy.
All right. So those missions are so boring and so difficult for no reason. Absolutely none. I was like, Josh, here, take the controller. Let's see you bust a move.
Josh is the Tony Hawk Pro. Clearly, he'd be able. So the way the missions work in the game, there's Am, Pro, and Sick. So there's essentially, instead of having like a difficulty kind of like the Thug games had, essentially they change it so it's like, if you want to go for the hard difficulty missions, you can. If you're a little baby and you can't do the hard level missions, you still get points for doing them, right? Because to climb the ranks, you have to do gaps, find the hidden like secret collectibles, and do missions.
It's not the first time we've also seen like the third, second, and first place ideas. We did that with competitions in the earlier Tony Hawk game.
Yep, absolutely. But so here's the issue. This specific kind of mission. Let's say, so they want you to do 30 tricks total. If you want to get 6 score, you have to do 30 tricks. Okay? First 10 tricks are easy. They get harder as you go on. So Am is do 10 tricks, Pro is do 20, Sick is do 30. First 10 tricks, it's gonna be like do a flip, do a grab, do a manual, do a grind. Easy, right? Well, you do 10 tricks, and the whole issue is you have to keep moving. This camera guy is skating around in like a path in a circle. You have to follow him and do the tricks while following him. So it's not like stay still. We've had this in the past games like Thug 2, stand still and do these tricks while I call them out. Pro Skater 4 has this. Sit in this little half pipe area. I'm going to call out a bunch of tricks, do all the tricks as I call them out. It's not like that. It's harder than that because you have to move around. So you do the first 10. Do a flip, do a grab, do a manual, do a grind. Next 10 tricks, these are the pro tricks. Now it's going to be like do a 180 flip, do a grind and then do a grab, do a manual and then do a flip. So now instead of doing one trick, you're doing combos. Here becomes the issue. They want you to grind a lot. A lot of these are like grind. There is not always a rail available.
It's a lot of flat land.
So we only did one. There's like one of those for each level. There's like 10 levels in this game. Each level has one of those where you have to do like 30, sometimes 35, sometimes 40 tricks in like 2-3 minutes.
I remember we saw him in the second level and we both were like, absolutely not.
Yeah, not a chance. Avoid it like the plague. So you can get pro pretty easy. If you're an okay Tony Hawk player, you can get pro pretty easy. Not an issue. Sick is exactly that. It's a sick joke. Because then it goes from being like, it was do a flip, do a grind, do a manual. Then it went, do a 180 flip, do a grind, and then a flip, do a grab and a manual, right? Do 2 trick combos. Now they go to being 3 trick combos. So it'll be like grind, 180 grab, grind. So now not only does there need to be a rail, there needs to be a rail long enough that you can grind, jump, do a trick, and then land in a grind again. Again, not an easy feat all the time to do. And again, you're timed doing this. You've got like 2.5 minutes to land 30 tricks.
Yeah, you gotta be fast doing tricks too.
Yeah. I will say the one weirdly nice thing if you want to go this route, the tricks never change. So you can just memorize it. So you can memorize the first 10 like flip, manual, grab, manual, grind, flip, grind, grab. You could just memorize a bunch of them and just bust them out super easy. But you shouldn't be required to do that, right? You
The amount of time, like, I'm thinking that I would take to just sit and replay this over and over again to the point that you're like, oh, I remember what to do.
I mean, you could write it down too,
God.
right? Like, I could play and you would write down, like, okay, first is grab.
I'm sure you can look it up too. Like, somewhere on the internet, someone's got it all written down.
But you shouldn't have to do that, right? It seems a little excessive to do that. This mission is awful. There's also, they have classic missions where they take the level that you're playing in and they make it like a classic Tony Hawk level. You get 2 minutes and you have 2 minutes to get skate and get combo and find the hidden collectibles. And that sucks because these levels are not designed for that. These levels are not designed with one path in mind. These levels are designed to do different challenges. So when they try and shoehorn in this classic mode, it just doesn't work for these levels. And this is what's frustrating. In the previous games, Underground 2, Underground 1, and Wasteland, they have classic modes. Maybe Underground 1 doesn't, I don't remember. But Underground 2 and American Wasteland have classic modes where they sprinkle in old levels and new levels that are built to do classic mode stuff. Even the Underground 2 and the American Wasteland levels work fine. I think American Wasteland just had old levels, maybe some like new ones that they made specifically for it. But Underground 2 had there was a Skatopia level. I mean, all of Underground 2 is level based, right? So it's like everything works for classic mode because they built it like a level with a solid direction and a solid path in mind. That does not work for these levels. These were not designed to be classic mode levels. They were designed to be Project 8 levels, which is completely different level design.
It is a rough game. I know Josh was really going off there for a second, and I didn't leave the room, I promise. I was sitting here with you guys.
He was crying.
Yeah, crying about this game.
Please make the game go away.
It's a game, and that's really all there really is to say about it. It wasn't great.
When did the first Skate come out? Are they trying to compete with Skate 1 at this point? I feel like this is before Skate 1. I feel like it had to be. You said 2007? They're just, there's no other Skate game to give them competition at this point, I feel like. So they can just kind of do whatever they want and be like, well, people will buy it. And they did, unfortunately. And I'm not saying don't take risks. I'm not saying play the safe card every time. But I'm just saying, know what your fans want. When they made 5, I haven't played 5, but when they made 5, they brought it back to, the level-based kind of cartoony atmosphere. 1 and 2, literally, they literally worked with fans to make sure that 1 and 2 had, essentially the PS2 style gravity. They worked... Vicarious Visions worked insanely hard to capture the essence of the PS1 and PS2 era Tony Hawk titles.
All right, Project 8 came out November 7th, 2006.
Okay.
Skate came out September 14th, 2007.
Sure, so Skate came a year after.
So
Project
I'm
8.
sure the marketing for Skate was already out during this time.
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely in development for sure at this point.
And so they probably saw what Skate was supposed to be. E3 would have happened, and I'm sure Skate would have been there. And so they probably saw that and decided to try to take on the similar formula. Just didn't work out in their favor.
Yeah, they didn't do it in the right way. And Skate's fun. Skate's fun for a different reason, though. Skate's fun because
Skate is definitely its own game.
Yeah.
It's a skateboarding game.
It's not trying to be
Tony.
It's not trying to be Tony Hawk. It just isn't. It's trying to be its own thing, and that's fun. There's a new one coming out soon. Excited for that. But
we've rambled enough.
Yeah, that's going to be it for this Project 8 podcast. If I never see it or play it again, it'll be too soon.
Far too soon.
It hurts me because I like that it's named Project 8 and it's the 8th game. I think that's cute and fun. It sucks that the game...
There's tons of potential. They just didn't reach it.
It sucks that the game sucks. Yeah. We'll play Proving Ground. We'll play all these other ones. It'll be a good time.
We'll play Proving Ground and prove why it's a real Tony Hawk game.
Yeah. I'm excited to revisit that and see what makes it so good. Or what I thought as a child made it so good. So
thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We've got one more Hawktober episode in the chamber here for you next week. Look forward to that. It's
extreme.
Sure, an adventure, I would say. If you dislike the amount of branding in this one, you're not gonna like the amount of branding in the next one. But we're gonna talk about a very interesting thing here. That's gonna be kind of the general idea.
I think you can play as a mouse and a duck.
I think, yeah, you are right. I think you are right. You can play as a mouse and duck, and a lion, and a man, and a elephant, and a ape, and
a dog, I think.
Maybe, and then 2 kids who were selected as part of a contest to be put into the game. No, I'm not kidding.
Man, sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
All in next week's episode and more.
Yeah. But look forward to that. That's kind of how the Hawktober stuff's going to go. The 4th one is usually going to be either silly or not a Tony Hawk game. I think we've kind of decided. So
we want to make this last. This is a special month for the both of us.
We love Tony Hawk. Had a profound impact on our lives, obviously.
When we no longer can afford to make Hawktober work, we will find a way to make Hawktober.
We'll just keep doing.
I was once told
we'll do Pro Skater 4.
I was once told life finds a way, and by God, life will find a way.
We'll make it find a way. We'll play Ollie Ollie if we have to. We'll play skate adjacent games. So, all right, that's gonna be it for us tonight.
Links down below.
Yes, unfortunately. I'll link that speed run of the Packle doing it with Andy. Andy doing some dev commentary. It is really. I watched the whole thing. It is kind of an interesting run. And
always a great time to
listen to him talk about it. I mean, this guy developed it and talking about what the culture was like, because he's like, I loved working at Neversoft, right? Like the game, the game is rough. I cannot disagree with that. And I wish some of the things I designed, I wish I designed them better now. But like, he's like, working at Neversoft was cool. So
yeah, anytime you can get a dev's insight, it's always a great time.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll put that down below. But other than that, keep on rocking in the free world. Have a good Hawktober and skate your heart out.
Skate! I'm Alex.
I'm Josh.
Keep skating. Have a great night. Project 8.
Mouse and a duck? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think you can play that in that game.
What? Mouse? Oh, sure.